What is up, guys? So in this episode here, we're going to go ahead and finish the editor, okay? So in the last episode, we had got the editor somewhat up and going, up and running, the basics of getting it running. In this episode, we're just going to finish it off. Um, we're going to get the data back, store that data in an object, so that object can get ready to be stored to our backend, okay? So that's the idea of what we want to do, but we want to get some stuff down first before we get to the storing to the backend. We want to make sure we get this editor going and have a save button and all that good stuff, okay? So let's start that. Let's go ahead and finish the functionality of this editor. The first thing we got to do is actually get that button down here, because that button is going to be the button that handles the submitting of the content that's in the form. I mean, not in the form, in the editor. So it's going to be like have the responsibility of saving the note. It's going to have a on click. It's going to be equal to a method which we create called save data. Okay. It's going to be equal to. And right now it's just going to console log hello right now. We'll get into the functionality of that in a second. Another thing that I want to do before we dive into that, because that's a whole lot of things we gotta do in the save data. I want to do something with this editor a little bit. I want to get rid of the things that we're not going to be using. So the subscribe, we won't be using that. The indent and the outdent, we won't be using that. It's grayed out anyway, so I don't know why we can't use it in the first place, but that's regardless. I don't want it in there. And some of the other stuff that I don't want in there, okay? So we got to configure this toolbar to list out the things that we want only in the toolbar instead of the things that we already have, okay? So we need to be in the editor, and they have a toolbar um, property in this editor that you can configure to delete or add on things that you want in this toolbar, okay? So we're basically just going to list out the things that we want in this toolbar by default, and then all the other stuff that we don't mention is not going to show in here, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go, oh, I don't know what happened. We're going to go inline, okay? And then inline, what we're going to do is that we're going to have some options, and the options are going to be the things that we want in the toolbar. So options are going to be an array, and this is going to be bold. So these are the things that we actually want in there. We have bold, italic, and we have underline. I think that's one of them. Strike through. These are all in the docs too as well, in the documentation. And then we have the minus space. Now the minus space is that where is it? Yeah, this code looking where you can turn your text into code, a code, inline code. I think that's what minus space is. I never really heard of it. That's that name, so I'm guessing that's what that is. So after the inline, we're gonna do the list. Okay. Now the lists are basically these right here, the unordered list and the ordered list. So we do want those in there. So that's going to have options. There's going to be an array of what type of lists that we want, which is of course unordered. and ordered. Okay. Alright, those are the only ones that we wanted, and as you can see, the toolbar got much smaller because we only put in the things that we actually wanted here. Okay, so these are the things that are showing up. All these additional ones we could set, these might be like true or false values if we dive deeper into them, but we're gonna leave these in here because we can use these. So that's it for the toolbar configuration of what we want in our toolbars. The next thing you want to do is when we type, for some odd reason, by default, our headers don't work. So if I was to go highlight it and try to do 2, it doesn't change. Or like when I try to do 1, H1, it doesn't change. For some odd reason, it doesn't. But I found a way to implement that. We just have to do some CSS styling to that. So what you got to do is make sure you create a code editor.css file in the components, because that's going to be the code editor to CSS for our code editor file. And what we're going to do is actually I copied the code so it wouldn't, so you guys won't have to like watch me type all that. It's right here. It's the headers 1 through 6, and basically what it does is that it toggles it back and forth. So if you click on H1, it's going to grab the H1 tag, and the text within it is in a span. So you grab the H1 tag with the span, and then when you toggle it, just make the font size bigger and make the font weight 600. Okay, and it's going to do like it should do by default, but it doesn't. So we just added that in there. 1 through 6 of the headers. Okay, and all of them have different sizes, of course. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure our CSS is inside of this file. I'm going to import that. We'll do code editor.css because it's under the same folder. So now when we write something and we actually type in the header 1, it grabs that H1 span and then it just does our class to it. That's what we say, okay? And that does that for all of the headers, H4 and so on, okay? So that's working. To make sure that the bold works, because before the bold wasn't really working that great, so if we go back to normal, and if you do it without having a, so, wait, let me start over. So, this font is Masquerade, and if you don't specify which weight you want for Masquerade, it's going to look like it doesn't have a bold, even though you style it with a bold property, a font weight property, that's what it is. If you style it with font weight, it might not look like it's that font weight if you don't specify the font weight on the actual font family that you're doing. So we got Masquerade, so I grabbed the 400 weight and the 600 weight in Masquerade, so that way when I do target something to make it bold, it'll give it that 600 and then it'll actually look bold, okay? So make sure you do that, because without it, it doesn't look like it's bold at all. So make sure you grab the 400 and the 600 so you can make your Masquerade text bold and whatnot when you need it to, okay? So make sure you grab that from Google Fonts, okay? The next thing we want to do is set up the editor, okay? So we got all that working, now we got to set up the editor. So in our save data, we basically got to, oh wait, actually no, sorry. Before we do that, we have to get the data back. And once we get the data back from our editor, we store that in a property we will set in our context. Okay, so let's set that now. So we're going to create a property called content state, like this, and it's going to be set to null by default. So when we actually get the editor data, we're going to store that in our content state, and then in our content state, from there, we can loop through that data and grab the things that we want. So that's what we got to do. So let's create a method called we'll call it on content change. That's what we'll call it. Alright. Now, our editor has a property that's called on content change that updates whatever we put into the editor into an array of objects. Okay, so that's on content change. On content state change, it does this. Okay, so this on content state change takes in a property of content state. If you hover over it, you can see what properties, no, not properties, what arguments it takes in. And it takes in one argument, which is the content state, which is whatever we type in our editor is going to give it back to us, okay? So we need to run our method right here, okay? So now our method should accept the argument of content state. Like that. And for now, we're just going to console.log this content state to see what we get, which is an array of the data we put in our editor. Okay, so it's going to do that. So let's have that open. Let's go to inspect here. Right here. So if we even type it, if we like even focus inside of it, it's going to do it. It's going to have nothing there, but it updates it. It's like an on change event, basically. You know how you have on change on the input and it updates whatever you type in the input? That's basically what on content change does. State change does. Okay, that's what it does. It just updates it to whatever we put in there. So if we have this big long word, jibber jabber, in our blocks, that's where all of our data lies in our blocks. So if we open up the blocks, the text is what we typed in the editor, okay? So the blocks is where our data lies. The text is what we typed in, and the type, that's also important. We're going to be focusing on these two types right here, these two properties, the text and the type. Now the type is unstyled because it's just regular text, okay? So it's unstyled. But if I was to make this text a header 1, then if you look at the block now, the recent one, scroll down here, you can see that it has the same text, but the type is header 1. Okay, so we got to do some conditional statements to figure out how we're going to store these values in the object that we want to pass to the database. Okay, so those are what we're going to be working on. Alright, so instead of console.logging it, what we want to do is for these objects, what we want to do is store this information inside of our content state. Okay, so now, oh no, not there. What we're going to do is we're going to grab the blocks, because that's the one we're actually looking for. The blocks is where our data lies. So we're going to do const blocks. And it's going to be equal to our content state dot blocks. Okay, so if we grab the dot blocks, it's going to grab that array. And I'll show you. Type something. Oh, I don't console.log it. Content state. If we console.log that, so we're grabbing the blocks. So we say content state dot blocks, and now it's grabbing this array. We're storing this array inside of our content state. So that's what we're doing. So now I'm grabbing the blocks, and now we do set state, pass in our old state, update a property, content state, and now that's going to be equal to the blocks. So now we have it, now we have that data in our context, and now we can loop through it and do what we want to it, okay? So we're going to loop through it and do what we want to it in our save data method, okay? So now here, what we're going to do is we're going to we're going to set an editor object. It's going to have a title, which is equal to nothing. Content equals to nothing. And the image is equal to nothing. Now I named this title, content, and image because these are the values of in our schema that we specify when we create a note. These are the same. We named it the same thing. So when we create a note in our schema, when we defined it, we defined that it was going to have a title, a content, and image. So make sure that you created the same name. That way it won't, be confusing for you, and it'll all be the same. Okay. So we got this object right here. We made it a let because we're going to change the property values of it. And we can't make that a cons because we wouldn't be able to do it, okay? So we got this editor object, right? Now we need to bring in our content state. We need to bring in that from our state. Okay, so how we do that is we can destructure it. We can go content state and grab that directly out of the state. Okay, now we can access the state because we did it here. Okay, we made it available. So once we grab that, what we want to do is that we want to map through that. So because it's an array of our data at this point. So we map through it, and we're going to name this data. And what we want to do is we're going to do some if checks based on those types and texts that we saw in the blocks array. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to say if, well, first let me destructure this because I want to grab the type and that text we saw right out of the data. Okay, so we can just use it instead of going data.type, data.text. We can just grab those values, those properties right out of this object here. Okay. Now, what we do, we'll say if the type is equal to header 1. Okay, so if we go into our editor and try to do a header 1 tag, if that's the case, we want our editor dot title to be equal to that text. So if we text hi and made it a h1, that's what we want our editor title to be. We want it to be hi, because that's the title, because it's a h1. Okay. So then we'll say else if the type is equal to unstyled, then we want to do something else, right? So if the type is equal to unstyled, that means it's regular text. It's just like jibber jabber like this. This is unstyled. It's just regular, right? So we want our editor content to be that text. Like that. Okay? Now we're going to add a plus to it. Like this. because whatever text that we get, say like we do this and then do a new block, if we was to do a new block, it'll create a whole different object, and the two texts wouldn't be together. It would be one block will say this and another block will say that, okay? But we don't want that. We want any text that is unstyled, it needs to be the content. Okay, so even though it's on a new block and it's supposed to create something, it's supposed to create a new one, all this will be put together as one big text. Okay, so that's why we do plus. So it's appending on to each other. So all of these are appended to each other, even though they're on separate blocks. Okay, so you'll see how that works in a second. And then we'll do an else if. Now, we can only have one header. So, if we do header 1, if we make something at H1, that's going to be our main title, okay? Because if we try to make one an H1 and then turn around and do another one for H2, which one would be actually stored as the title? Because they're two different headers. So, we're going to specify that only a text with the header 1 is going to be the main title. And every other header, like header 2, header 3, header 4, those are just going to be as regular text, okay? So we can do that by saying if the type is equal to header 2, which is our basically subheaders, we want those not to be the main header, the main title. We don't want that. We just want those to be regular, because we already got H1 as the main title. We can't have two main titles. So that'll be 3, 4, 5, all the way to 6. Last one is 6. Yes, this seems tedious, but this option actually works. Okay? And then, if that's the case, we're going to want our editor .content to be plus equals text. So whatever our text was at this stage, we're going to append it to this text so it can be one big text, like I said before, okay? Else, if everything checks out and we do have a header, we do have content, and we do have an image, then you're just going to say that the editor .content is going to be plus equals to whatever text you put in there. At this point, the editor text is whatever the editor text is. I mean, the content is whatever the content's going to be from the previous content. And then the header, if you make it an H1 header, is going to be whatever header you put. But all of the unstyled texts are going to be one big text, okay? Even all the header 2s and so forth is going to be rendered as one big text, even though it creates it on separate blocks, okay? So let's re-render that. Now let's see how that all looks by console.log in the editor. Tour, which is this one right here. Okay, so if we clear that, say we have, oh well, wait, what are we console.log in? Okay, we can stop console.log in this now, because it works. What is that? I don't even know what that is. Okay, there we go. So if we say hello world, do a different block, I'm Andy, right? And then we put like a header in here. header 1, and then make this a header 1. Now when we save this, we should get an object that has the title, which is this, and the content, the hello world, and I'm Andy in one text. So let's see. Boom, there we go. Header 1, and then the content is hello world, I'm Andy. Okay? So it doesn't matter what content what we put after. It's going to append all of this text because it's unstyled. It's going to append it as the content. So it's going to be added on to the content. So you save it, boom, it's added on. Okay? So that's working. And the title is still the same. Okay? Now if you was to render, if you surrender like second header like this, and you do like a H2, which remember, it renders as regular text. This won't be the header. It's still header 1. It's still the title. Okay, this won't be the title. So let's see. Boom. Title still header 1, and they append it as if it's regular text to the content here. Okay, you can see the second. Okay, now if you don't put no spaces on there, it'll like push together. So that's why you gotta make sure you have like space, and then it'll look right. I mean, it's not the best, but you know, it still works. Okay, and even the unordered lists and the ordered lists, they work the same. So let's do. These will render as regular content as well. Okay. Save that. As you can see, it's added to the content. So it's one big content, alright? And then your title, whatever your H1 is, okay? Now let's work on the image. Now the image is a little bit different. The image is a little bit tricky because there's a lot of things to it that I'm still not quite sure I understand. But, you know, I got it done. Now with the image, what you got to do with the image is you have to see, like for right now if we do the image, it's just the URL. And the URL doesn't really render correctly. I mean, if I could put a URL in here from the online, but it doesn't, for some reason, we don't get that data back in our blocks data for some reason. We just don't get it back. So I'm not going to really worry about that one right now. The main one that I actually want is the file upload. So you can upload an image from your desktop and add it to your editor, okay? So that's the one that we're going to be doing, that we're going to be focusing on. So the thing we got to do, the thing with that one is, let me see. Actually, I have the code snipped out already because it's a code that I had to search for. They don't have many tutorials, by the way, on React Draft of this editor. They have like none, basically. They like rarely have any. I had to like really dig down deep to search how to do this because they just don't have tutorials on this. So so far as I know, I'm like the only one that did like a full project using this package, the React Draft editor package here. So this is the code that will help us get that upload image to where, oh no, not that one, to where we'll have the URL and then we have file upload. So the code I just copied is what's going to help us get that. So let's just paste that. We're going to paste that. Do you paste it inside? Do I remember pasting it inside or do you paste it outside? I think you paste it outside. Okay, so I'll paste it outside right here. Like that. Okay. Now this is the method that brings in the file upload in our editor. Okay. So what it's doing here, because they have like the comments. I'll leave the comments in so you guys can read it. But what it's basically doing, I'm assuming, is that it gets the file from our desktop, and then it grabs that file, turns it into a file with this image object, whatever it's doing here, turns that file into an actual image file, and then pushes that file to our images array, which we don't have in our context, okay? So, and then it does a promise call. It it makes a promise, and the resolve is outputting that data, that file, so we can access it. Okay, so that's basically all it's doing. If you want to dive into that, go ahead and read the comments. But I'm still like, on how this kind of works in detail. So, um, yeah. So let's make this uh, this uploaded image, well, upload images array. So right here we're gonna have a upload images. That's gonna be equal to an empty array. So whatever files that we have, we're just gonna push that file into this array. Okay, make sure I named it right because it already has it in the code. So the images, we're doing set state, and then now our upload images now has the files of whatever file we put in there is going to be inside this array of uh, uploaded images, okay? So that's what that does. And this is a method, okay? So if you want to find this is how I did to search for it so you guys can really understand it. React draft, that one. And then I did upload callback. And I found it on this GitHub issue that somebody was having. I think this is the right one. Someone was having the same problem. They couldn't get it up and running. And this code right here is what I use to get it up and running. So feel free to look at that, read the comments if you want to get a deep understanding, or just like read the whole conversation they had to get a deeper understanding on how that works. But I'll copy this. I'll put this link in the description so you guys can look at that. But this is where I got it from, and I had to test that out and play around with it to make sure that it works, and it does. So the next thing that we need to do is that we need to call this method. Okay. Now in our editor, we have a image property, I believe. Let me see. Is it in here? It has a whole the toolbar. We're in the toolbar because if you know, the toolbar is the one that has the image icon here. So we have to be in the toolbar, and if we go to the image property that has all, you know, the data associated with the image, one of the properties is called upload image, I believe. And if I'm not sure, I can always go here to the documentation real quick. React draft, that word. This is the documentation of it right here. No, it's not. Where is it? This one? Yeah, here it is. Okay. See, now this is how it's supposed to look. If you click that image, we have the file upload, okay? So this is how it's going to look for us. So if we go down here, oh no, I lied. If you go to the docs, and you scroll down, it shows you all the list of the properties that are inside the toolbar. See, these are all the properties. And it gives you details down here of what all these properties do, okay? Now the property that we're focusing on is the image. So the image has the URL enable, which is true by default. But what we care about is the upload callback. Okay, so this is the property that needs to have a method that does our upload. Okay, so we need to grab this upload callback because by default it doesn't have one. Well, it's true by default. The upload callback is true by default, but it doesn't have a method by default. Okay, so it's called upload callback. That's what it's called. Upload callback, and then what method that we want to use? We want to use our method that we created called, where is it? Oh yeah, upload image callback. Okay, so it's going to get that up and running for us like that. Okay, and they also have a preview, as you can see here. If you look at the documentation, it has preview image. So we want to make that to true, so we could, when we click the upload, grab it from our desktop, we see the preview of the image that we're about to put in our editor. So preview image, we want to see that, so we're going to set that to true, and that should be good to go. Now it's saying what? Upload color is not defined. 89. Why did I not do it right? Oh, wait, no. Oh, okay, yeah. I put it inside the save data. I didn't mean to do that. Sorry. Not inside the save data. It's supposed to be like on top of the save data. No, not inside. What's going on here? No, 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 no. All of this needs to come out and put it on top. There we go. See, now that just messed my whole thing up. Okay, hold on. Okay. Now, what the freak just happened here? Go back. There we go. Okay. See, now we got it inside the save data. We don't want it in the save data. Grab this. Take it out. We're going to store it before. Like that. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. Make sure it's outside of the save data and not inside the save data. It can't run like that. So we got that going. So now our image should be working. There we go. Got the file upload. You can click it or drag and drop it. Let's go ahead and demonstrate it by putting my face in there. See, it has the preview because we made that preview to true. Go ahead and add it, and then boom, it's added. Okay. Now that we got this working, now we have to get this data. We have to get the image data to store it inside of our image object that we have here. Okay. So that at the bottom of here, after we map through the content state here, we want to map through our images array, and we can destructure that by grabbing it from the state here. Upload images, I think that's what we called it. Upload images, yep. Okay, so we grab that, and we'll do upload images dot map. We're gonna map through each image. Okay, and now we're gonna just console.log that image to see what we get. Alright, so if you put an image in here, face again, add that image. Now if we hit the save, we should console.log the editor to see what it is. I forgot to reload, so I have to put the image again. There we go. Add. Take that off. We'll just put the image in there. There we go. Okay. So this is what we get back. Ignore that. This is what we get back. We're getting this image data back. So the file and the local source. Now what we care about is the file and the name. Okay, so if we do image.file.name, get this value and store this value in our image object that we have here. Okay, so what we can do is we can destructure that. So we can do const, we can structure the name part and do image. Well, it's going to be equal to image.file.name, like that, to grab the name. And then we'll do editor.image and set that to the name file of whatever the image we put in there, okay? So now if we do it again one more time, my face, and add that, and then we hit save, image, oh, we get undefined. Ooh. Is it .name or is it just .file? Let's try it again. I might have destructured it wrong. Save. Oh, okay. So don't put .name. Oh, yeah. You're not supposed to put .name because we're grabbing the name already. Sorry, my bad. Okay, so it's working, right? We get that image in there. Let's throw this to the left. Left, center, right. It positions the image. So let's say I'm here. That's my name, Ajia, H1. And then let's put some, oh, I thought it was doing it. It wasn't doing it? What? It's not letting me text anything. Sometimes it does that. I don't know why. Then I have to hit like back like 60 times. That's weird. Okay. I don't know why I did that. It was being weird a minute ago. Either I'm not doing it right or it's acting janky. It's either or. But if I probably because I was trying to type like right under it. Oh, now it's working. I don't know. It does janky things. That's the code. Normal text. Let's see what the data is when we try to save that. Title Amagia, that's correct. I love to code. Yep. And the image is that. Boom. Alright, so we're getting this data, okay? And we're going to eventually store this in our backend. But we're getting that data and that is good. Okay, that's progress. So I'm trying to remember if I need to end it there, because we basically got the editor done, and only thing we need to do for the editor would be the backend stuff, I believe. Yeah. So, okay, yeah. We pretty much got everything. Okay, the last thing I want to do before I end this video is, because we got everything done with the UI part of getting this editor finished, is to do this button, because that looks nasty. So let's go ahead and style that button real quick. Let's go to where is this button? Oh, at the bottom. Let's apply some styles to this button real quick. Giving it class name equals, and then our styles. So now what we're gonna do, of course that's gonna throw an error, but we're not worried about that. We're gonna go to Tailwind. Okay, so Tailwind CSS and get some button styles in here. Let's go buttons. Basic button styles. Do I want it that one, or do I want a pill? No, I'll just go for a regular button. A regular old button. So we'll just copy these styles here. Paste it here. Too many quotes. Only need one. Okay. To give us a nice looking button. Okay, there we go. Of course, let's put some margin, I believe, on this button. We don't have to use the font bold because it's looking pretty thick. I don't want it like that. There we go. Let's do margin right. Is that right? Margin right? No, what is this? Left? Yeah, margin left. 2. No, that did not do it. Is it padding? Is it padding left? There's something left. Am I doing on the button? What is it? Padding. Padding left and right. Padding up and down. Padding Y is up and down. I guess I can do padding left and right. Oh. Padding X for left and right. There's 2. I need to make it bigger. 4. 5. 4. Oh, it's not doing it. Grr. Oh, now my styles don't want to work. Oh, there's already a padding there. Okay. Did I just do it twice? Well, it's still not working. Margin. Oh, there we go. Ooh, no. Margin 2? No. Margin left. It's really looking ugly. Why is it doing that? Why is it doing that? Also, now it looks like extremely ugly. What happened? It did look good. What did I do to it? Okay, let me copy that again. Oh. Let me copy that again. Because now it looks like crap. I did something wrong. Okay. Okay, so the padding is inside, margin outside. Okay, so I was doing it wrong, as I expected. So margin left should be 3 or 2 or something. There we go. God darn it. Alright, so margin left, to get that off of there like that. Let's close this console down. So it looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm going to end that video there. When we come back, we should be getting into some backend stuff, making some requests from using fetch slash using Apollo. I had a little I had a dilemma doing that, but we'll get into that in the next video. Um, I will see you guys in the next video. If you liked this one, go ahead and hit that like button, and I will see you in the next one.